All right, welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Podcast, because me and Brian have not come up with a name yet. But today, folks, we have a special guest with us, someone who may say is one of the masters of outbound marketing.
It's outbound. I like
right.
that.
So
I like that moniker.
Today we have Derik on the episode today. Derik, welcome.
What's up, guys? Glad to be on the episode.
Yeah, no, happy to have you. We just had, a few shots of whiskey downstairs.
Loosened up a bit.
Yeah, loosen up for the podcast. But no, I appreciate you, coming through. And I know you've been flying all over the place right now, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, okay, so Derik, I think you were probably one of the first people who we ever kind of introduced us into the world of outbound. Before you, I think it was Harrison, who we had seen that was in the industry, but besides that, we hadn't actually met any agency owners that were specifically focused on that. So how did you get into outbound? Because I know that when we first met, you mentioned that you had actually sold an agency before. So what got you into that?
Well, before that, I would love to hear your origin story. I would love to hear how did Derik get into the outbound, right? But I want to know your upbringing, because fellow Filipino,
100%.
right? You're from the Philippines.
We gotta represent, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So essentially, I moved to Canada in 2009, I believe, and that was when I, coming from the Philippines, I had a mass communication background, so a bit of communications. I was part of doing stunts in doing radio ads, morning news, things like that, but nothing crazy, right?
Right.
So I was kind of putting myself out there. I also had a bit of military training, so I was proactive,
right?
I wanted to go out there, get things done. And then coming into Canada, I think within the first 5 days, I put out 10 applications for job postings, right? I responded to 15 job posts. And then within the 5th day, I was getting interviews, right? In the 6th day, I was working. I was knocking doors. I was knocking doors in Canada.
Right.
And honestly, it was like a baptism of fire, right? Because it was coming from a huge culture shock from the Philippines to Canada, and then totally different environment, different people. But then being introduced and being sworn at in different languages, different people, different accents.
Was that kind of like your first time even being introduced to sales or something like that?
Being introduced to a direct sales aspect of things,
right.
I'd say so, yeah.
Gotcha.
We were selling, I think we would lock in their hydro rate, their electricity rate for 10 years.
Right.
And then, they would pay us a commission, something like that. And after 2 days, 3 days, I left that because it was too much for me.
Right.
But I learned a lot in the first day, first job. It was like, there was this one day where we went out to an apartment complex in the East End, and then I was knocking the door, and then I smelled something funny, right, from the door. So I'm like, okay, this is something I've never smelled before.
Right.
And then the guy opens the door, and then it's this guy with long hair, half naked, with torn ripped jeans, right? And then just snorting, right? Coming at me snorting. It's like, fresh meat. It was a shock. I was super shocked. And I did not know what to do. I ran across the hallway. I was knocking doors, who would let me in, right? End of the hallway. I knocked and I'm like, you got a crazy neighbor. Let me in, right? So the couple lets me in. I find out they're an Ethiopian couple, immigrants too, very strong Christian beliefs. And then they let me in. They were my first sale of the day of the business too. So I'm like, I got a sale. They fed me some food, gave me some water. I was thankful. It's such a contrast to being called fresh meat, right?
Right. And how old were you at the time?
I think I was 21.
21, and you were doing door knocking.
Years old, yeah, 6 days in Canada.
Right. Was there a language barrier at all, when you first came in? And
I mean, not really, because in the Philippines, I grew up speaking English. It was my first language.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
it was. And it helped. It helped a lot. Because coming in, it was just, that's what we spoke at home, with cousins.
So going door to door was kind of your first experience with outbound?
First outbound, 100%. No, 100%. Well, I also have some experiences where, there's a funny story where I think I was in high school and we were, I was in an agricultural high school, right? And one of our projects was we would plant beans, and we would throughout the season we would nurture them, and then we'd sell them, right? But the teacher, there's a bit of a system there, right? So the teacher, he bought the seeds, he bought the fertilizers, and he's like, oh, now in harvest season, you guys get ready tomorrow because we're gonna collect and you're gonna submit it to me. And I'm like,
Right.
nah, I ain't gonna submit these beans to happen, you know? I grew these beans, man. You know, I toiled for these beans, I sweat for these beans. And that's why I rallied up the crew, and I'm like, guys, let's go pick up them beans before tomorrow comes. We gotta go harvest the beans.
Right.
So the same night, we go in with the crew, we take the beans, we bag them up, and the same teachers that were his co-teachers, we started selling the beans. We're like, I went outbound. I'm like, hey, teacher, fresh bag of beans, you know,
Right.
fresh harvest beans.
Right.
Pay me tomorrow. Pay me on payday. We'll put you on a list.
Right.
Sold the beans.
Wow.
Sold out the beans, man. Next day, teacher comes in the farm, barely any beans, dude.
Wow. So you've been like around like I guess sales for a while now, right? You just kind of weren't really thinking about it, but you were selling beans and you moved to Canada. You did some door knocking for about 3 days. Right. And so, I mean, you said you quit after 3 days,
It
right?
was a bit much. They wanted us to go out to like a county a half an hour away or an hour and a half away, and they wanted us to stay for 2-3 days and fund it ourselves.
Right.
And I was fresh, I was green, I was broke.
Right.
So I'm like, I can't fund this myself unless you guys can cover me.
Right.
I ain't coming knocking doors down that way, right? So,
Right.
and they're like, no, you gotta fund it, you gotta make it back, this and that. I'm like,
Wow. So
nope, peace, I'm out,
you were only getting paid on commission?
straight up.
Wow. I remember like my first kind of door knocking experience because I used to do window washing
Right.
for like a student company. And yeah, my first time door knocking, it was brutal. Like I was just fumbling my words. I didn't know what to say. The first door I knocked, I just completely butchered it. And then the person who was supposed to train me started laughing in front of like the prospect. And I'm like, oh, dude, this is brutal.
But it teaches you something.
It does teach you. It humbles you a
Teaches
lot.
Something,
Humbles you.
I think everybody should at least attempt to serve in the military and knock some doors.
Right.
A lot of people have that opinion that you should get introduced into door-to-door sales at least one time in your life, because I think it may be. I actually amongst those jobs that I think you should do to kind of develop like some basic like life skills with it when it comes to like talking to people that you don't know is being a restaurant server. I feel like being a restaurant server for me was definitely like a turning point from just talking to people in high school and just like only talking to kids that I knew, and then like being able to communicate like I don't know, like the whole process of serving the food to like adults, and like it just got you used to it. And a similar thing with door to door, although I think it's a lot scarier to go door to door.
Yeah.
But I noticed in like let's say 2022, 2023, it became very popular for people to start agencies where they did outbound, but you were doing it way before. So you said you were going door to door when you were like 21. When did you get into marketing in general? Because when we see you as like a marketing expert, but like also you started, you know, in your early mid 20s. So like, how did that go? And
Yeah, so pretty much I started dabbling into the online marketing space, I think, after I did my door-to-door stint. That didn't work. The next week after that, I got a job at a fast food, right? Stayed at the fast food for another 2 months. And then I picked up a gig at a call center agent, as a call center agent. Doing sales. So similar to you, is that there's that customer service aspect of it.
Right.
And I did that for 2.5 years, doing customer service and sales, selling cell phone contracts to the Americans. So I learned the geographies of the U.S. I learned what people from Texas sounded like, California sounded like, what their beliefs were, accent from the East Coast, West Coast, you know, like what they lean towards, what
like
they
the
like
way they
talking
behave
about.
too.
Like
Absolutely.
the whole
You gotta know your
persona.
market.
Right.
Those were the beginnings of my like market research, is that for years I was working those phones and knowing, you know, exactly how to talk to them, questions to ask, what to sell, how to identify the pain points. So it kind of started there, I'd say. Even before I got online, I started picking up these skills that translated into what I've now become, right? So after I did that, I decided, okay, maybe the commission sales phone role might not be the height of my
Right,
career,
right,
So I
right.
didn't see the full trajectory there. I then decided I want to go to school, right,
In Canada?
in Canada.
I
Right.
didn't know this.
I applied to Ottawa U, and they asked me to go back to the 10th grade math.
How old were you?
Yeah, I was. How old was I?
Yeah, when
I
you.
think I was like 24, man, 23,
Damn,
24, and I
you're
was
our
asked,
age.
"Hey, you gotta
Right.
get back grade 10 math, right? Finish that off." So I said, I think at this point, if I need 6 more years to get to the point where I'm
hold on.
even,
All right, and we're back. Little technical difficulties with the lighting, but Derik, you were talking about you were trying to get into school, Ottawa, but they told you to go back to 10th grade math.
grade math. So I said, I got no choice. I got to roll the dice.
Oh, you
right?
went back to
No, hell no, man.
He's gonna be in high school.
No.
He's 24.
I didn't do
I don't know
that.
if this was part of the origin story. Like,
No, I became a paralegal instead.
Oh wow!
I did.
No
I did,
way.
Yeah. I'm a certified Ontario paralegal.
Oh wow!
I took a compressed course for 18 months
Mm-hmm.
instead of 24 months. So did that, got the license, practiced with the immigration paralegal. But man, their work is just a different level of emotional commitment.
Right.
wow.
It wasn't for me.
How long were you doing that for?
I went to school for 18 months while I was still working for Rogers part-time. And I worked for 3 months and I quit.
Right.
So then you're a paralegal, you're working, and then at what age were you like, okay, I'm really liking business. There's kind of like a common theme in my life of sales. Like,
Yeah, because that's when I realized that I'm good at being social and happy and seeing that transformation in people. Right? So that's when I started to realize, okay, I should go back into what felt good, right?
Right.
So that's when I started looking up how do I start making money online while also looking for some part-time jobs, right?
so you were Googling how to make money online, or did you?
100%.
Wow. So like, because there's so many people who are in
That's
that
where it
situation.
starts. That's where it starts,
Well,
man, how to make
yeah.
money online.
And
right?
nowadays, when you
Biggest
search it up,
keyword.
there's a lot of different like methods, like you said, lead gen agencies,
Yeah.
like marketing agencies, even drop shipping, stuff like that.
So many rabbit
Well,
holes. you
what
can go
kind of
into.
pinpointed you to pick like, oh, I want to do, this type of agency or this type of,
Right.
I guess, marketing company, right?
So I eventually worked for Apple, and I was just learning about this. They taught me a lot about the customer journey, right? And then seeing the value of the customer lifetime value, and having advocates, having people raving fans,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
As
yeah.
raving fans. So that's when I started to sort of think, how do I create that sort of environment and atmosphere for myself,
Right.
right? And then I was following some of these online gurus. I ended up in one of a few rabbit holes, but one of them, it's delivering services online, right? So that's through platforms like Odesk and Elance. This was the old Upwork.
Right.
Before
Oh
Upwork.
yeah. Before
It was Odesk
Before
and
Fiverr
Elance,
and all that.
Before Fiverr. Yeah.
Elance? I literally have
Elance.
never heard of that.
This is like 2010, 2011.
Oh.
They should have been Fiverr, but I guess they weren't.
I think they merged. I'm not sure. Don't quote me
Maybe
on it, but they might have merged.
Interesting.
And then that's what created Upwork.
Upwork,
as we
right,
know it
right.
now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but I came across a program called Inbox something by a guy from down in Florida, Wyatt Jazwowski.
Like an email marketing one thing or no?
It was like how to get clients on Elance.
Oh,
How to
okay.
get freelance clients
Right.
on Elance.
What
right?
year was this?
2010, you said?
This was like 2012 at
Jeez.
this point, yeah.
Right.
2012. I remember at this point there was a lot of buzz around like affiliate marketing. Yeah, there was like that was like the was like the online make money thing, because I was in grade 9, grade 10, and I was like Googling like how do I make money online, and the biggest thing I found was
Affiliate marketing.
affiliate marketing.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't know. I was 13 at the time.
13.
Yeah.
You guys are
I think
babies.
Well, I was
the first introduction to like making money online was drop shipping, because my friends wanted to do like the drop shipping thing,
Right.
like in high school, where they just order stuff in like Alibaba or like, I don't know what, I think it was
AliExpress.
AliExpress or something, and then
Yep.
sell it off. But
E-packet it.
yeah,
I did a stint like that. I went to Florida.
right.
I went to an e-commerce conference with Devin Zander. I eventually worked for the guy too, but I ended up networking with a few guys. A few guys are still running big e-commerce merchandise stores for big brands now. But I ended up helping run a fishing store.
Right.
We're selling fishing reels, fishing gear, through Facebook ads. So there's definitely a lot of avenues, and being able to dial in and know what feels good, because everything has. Can I swear here?
Yeah.
Everything has shit to deal with, right? You got to deal with shit in anything that you do.
Right.
So you got to figure out what shit are you willing to endure. What shit are you willing to take?
Right.
What shit are you willing to enjoy?
Right.
So there's gonna be bullshit every single day.
Yeah, that's true. Especially in business, it's not. There's a lot of stuff that you have to be.
100%.
Yeah,
I actually think that a lot. Like there was I literally a couple days ago I was with some friends and we ran into a situation where it seemed like we were so completely out of luck, and then a miracle happened and we made it out. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, like that was like so cool. Like we had to solve that problem and we did it." And we were all so proud of it ourselves. But then I was like thinking to myself, like, man, in business, you just get thrown shit after shit. Like you get
Over
curveballs
over again.
You just become desensitized to like problems and
You
having to
want
deal
to
with
eat
them.
it.
Yeah. So then every once in a
day.
while, I'll think to myself like, how nice would it be to just like, I mean, in contrast, obviously the grass is always greener on the other side, and I do love business, but it's interesting to think there's some people who go to work and then like they leave work and the work stays there. Like when you work at, for example, like, in the government or something, or I don't know, you work a job where you like punch in and you punch out, the work stays there. But in business, it's not like that. So what drove you to be able?
That's why I like the agency model, because you find other people to throw that shit at.
Right.
Because the clients throw the shit at you, and then you throw the shit down to the
Yeah,
team. As long as everybody's
everyone's
handling
trained
the
and
shit,
everything.
Everything
Everyone's
work
juggling
out.
the shit. It's still gonna be in the air.
Honestly, that's it, right? Like you just learn to deal with just a little bit
delegate.
of the shit, and then hand it off.
Right.
Most of that shit gets worked with another guy, and then you know what I mean. Hand it off. Next thing you know, it's all back to the earth, and
Right.
then it's all growing plants again, leads and money, right?
Right.
But we
That
gotta
makes
work
sense.
that shit.
But going back to, you said you got some sort of package from, what was the guy's name in 2012?
Wyatt Jazzwowski.
Okay. And what was that? What was
Forget
that?
this guy's name.
What was that
Because
package?
it was a unique name. Anyways, it was how to get clients
Yeah.
on Odesk, right?
Right.
So main takeaway there is just consistency, really, because he just said the one biggest takeaway is that you gotta send at least 5 proposals a day.
Wow.
That's it, right? Because these
Yeah.
guys get this. It's like a Upwork, so you
Right.
got job board, right? So people that need work, put up a post. Need a social media graphic designer. Need article.
Right.
written,
Right.
Need SEO link building. This and that, right? So you pick and choose. He's like, you go in, you pick and choose what you think you're skilled in. If not, you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
He gave us like 3 or 4 skills to learn that we can deliver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you gotta optimize your profile, make it look like you're a professional, because it's trust. They gotta trust you.
Right.
So you gotta look professional photo. You gotta have good reviews if possible.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have a good about me section,
Right.
Well written. Write it out nicely. Here's a template, and then when you see this job post, you click reply. Here's a framework of how you can reply to it,
Wow.
right?
So
it's
it's kind of
just-
step-by-step
yeah.
message framework.
And he's like, send 5 a day. You send 5 a day.
Like,
right?
Imagine
I mean, nowadays it's like
Now
send
it's-
1,000 a day. Like send 1,000 a day, send hundreds a day.
1,000 a month probably.
Well,
Or,
this
you
is
know what I
also
mean?
a
Like-
direct marketplace
yeah,
of them
yeah.
looking for
Right,
workers
looking for work.
away.
Right.
So it was easier,
Right.
and it wasn't as saturated. And the course area now is just very saturated. You have to be very specific with what you're teaching now. I
Right.
find.
Right.
So you find that like that laser target.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day, it was also very targeted what he was teaching. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the platform, optimize your profile.
kind of the OG Outbound or something. 'cause,
OG,
like,
man, like this is back in the day. It's never, because Outbound, I think, will never die at the end of the day.
No, it's funny you say that because when we had Majid on the podcast, he was saying that there was a time where he wanted to become a public speaker and he wanted to charge all this money for public speaking, right? But then he worked on his he had seen that like other public speakers had beautiful websites and they had all this like kind of like fancy bells and whistles. Like they had like their offer was all mapped out, had some cool graphic design and stuff. And then I think it wasn't until he like found a mentor and the mentor was like, okay, where are the top 10 places that you want to speak? And Majid's like, okay, here are the top 10 places I want to speak. He's like, have you reached out to them ever? And he's like, oh, like it's actually a really good point.
It's like,
So I think
yeah.
a lot of people prepare themselves for the business and like they fix all the back end stuff and they make sure like they're ready to take on the business, but they don't actually like go out and offer the business.
That's true.
And
All you need to do is get somebody in front of the offer. And how do you do that? Very basic way. You either knock on the door, get in front of that person, right? Or send them a cold email, call LinkedIn, cold DM.
Yeah,
that's whatever, right?
That's why those painting companies and like the window cleaning companies that are for students are built on they'll get you to, as a student, knock on hundreds of doors, because they know that you can go and generate, like, it's like, what is it, more guerrilla marketing or something? You can go and generate all these sales in one summer, having a brand new business by going door to door, because like you're going directly to someone and you're asking them straight to their face, here's what I've got to offer. Like, is there any way I can help you?
It's true. And then they've assessed that, let's say, there's a lifetime for the windows or the garage or the lawn, the driveway. And they know that there's a percentage of those houses in that neighborhood, 1 or 2% will convert. Just got to get in front of them with the offer, show them the broken garage, make the offer, right? So, yeah, I have a lot of friends still that still do the door-to-door and
still working.
It.
Right.
Crush
it's
it.
like one of the
150K, 200,000 a year, working 4 or 5 months.
Gotcha. But like Outbound is like one of those things where I would say out of all kind of the lead gen channels is like it's the lowest hanging fruit. It's like it's anyone could do, like anyone to get your first client. I would always recommend someone to do Outbound because
100%.
it's really costly. It's not like paid ads where you have to spend thousands of dollars or like content creation,
targeting and stuff.
Yeah, on targeting and all that, or like content creation where it takes a while. You can just send out like 1,000 DMs to someone, and then at least one of them will at least close, right?
And it's also validation, right?
Right.
The good thing about Outbound is that you get to reach message to market match. This is where there's a resonance between what you're offering, how you're offering it to the market, because each segment of the market will have a different way of understanding your offer, right? So there's different pain points across different industries, but also segments within that industry, right? So there's decision makers, different levels. So you have to be able to find that. And if you're running paid advertising or you have money behind your campaigns when it's still not validated, then there's no conversion.
Right.
Versus if you're reaching out, you get in front of them and there's no barrier, right? You're getting raw feedback.
Yeah.
It's
like right away,
yeah.
This is the industry.
This is my value proposition. This is my golden apple, right? Do you want it?
Yeah, does it work?
Right? Is it golden enough for you? Are you hungry for an apple?
I'm like, am I talking to the right people? Do you guys want this?
Right. So there's those factors, but then once you get that fit, that's like, these guys love purple apples, right? And they love it at this time of year. And they love it when it's like, oh, we only have 10 of these to give away. That's when they love buying these purple apples, right?
Right.
When they feel exclusive.
The messaging is good.
Right. So then you dial these factors in, and then once you find the right words, right, the right offer, the right value proposition, you close the deal, or at least you get engagement first. You will get them to reply, and then interest. You get them to book a call, conversion.
Right.
You get them to buy, and then maybe they become a referral. That's that customer journey, right? Like just like I said earlier with Apple. You got to be able to map it all out, right, and reverse engineer that from the back, from your end goal in mind, right? How do you make them raving fans,
right?
And then engineer each part of that journey, and it starts with finding out, does the message hit the market? Does it match, right?
That makes sense. You were gonna say something? No, I was gonna say, I mean, all the knowledge you have about Outbound, like, you probably learned that throughout the whole years of you just running your own agency, right?
Oh yeah, just through life, man.
Right. Yeah, through life.
Yeah, just talking Outbound. I think Outbound is like, I don't know, at this point I live Outbound, right?
Right.
It's almost like we were waiting for a few friends, right? So we were outside in a gate in Antigua in Guatemala where we're shooting this music video there. And then we were out there waiting for some of the crew. And then one lady arrived and she saw us waiting and she said, Derik, why are you guys waiting? And I said, we're waiting for the guys. And she tells me, you've talked and asked for more things than this. So why are you not asking to be let in or somebody to come pick you up? And I'm like, you're right. Why am I not doing that? So I go to the guard. I talk to the guard. I work my words, right? And I'm like, guard, man, what's happening here, right?
Right.
Within 5 minutes, they call. They hand me the phone. I'm like, yo, we're here. somebody comes to get us.
I guess it's all the same thing. It's just asking.
Dude,
This is asking,
it's true,
yeah.
man. You gotta, and it's like the Greeks broke this down too. It's like how you say it, right? It's mostly the most important thing. It's like your ethos, pathos, logos, or something like that. But it's essentially the way you ask for things is what determines the result.
Right.
If you're rude and you're like, yo, give me that thing, they won't give it to you, right? But
Right.
if you're like, hey, I'm in a rush, my daughter's in the backseat
Yeah.
bleeding, I need my latte before I drive her to the hospital, can I cut the line?
Right. Right.
They'll be like, sure, man, cut the line, right?
Right. So like, how was your kind of first time running an agency, or how'd you get into like, what made you decide, you know what, I'm going to try and run my own first agency here? And, you know,
It was really just, I think, evolution, right? Like you just evolve your mindset, because once I started getting a few clients with that program,
yeah.
started sending 5 proposals a day, got a few phone calls, fumbled on the first few phone calls, and then learned to, okay, how do I close a deal? How do I package it up?
Right.
How do I convey the value proposition? Once that's been done, I got good at sales. Now I got too many projects that I can't fulfill on.
Oh,
So
no.
what I started doing is, in the program, it teaches you, okay, now that you got too much to deal with, hire someone,
Right.
right? So that's what I did. I learned to hire someone. And then I got my first freelancer, second freelancer, third freelancer. And I started growing that way. I started selling and project managing, quarterbacking the deals. I'd hand off the fulfillment to the teammates.
How much were you charging? And was it a retainer, or was it just like a one-time thing?
I think this was another lesson learned throughout the journey, because being my first agency, it was all over the place, right?
Right.
So I would charge for 5 blog posts for one client. I'd charge for 6 graphics for one other client.
Right. It's all
I'd
over the
charge
place.
for link building for another guy. So it ranges from $250
Right.
to $1,000, 12
Right.
different industries.
Right.
I had a bunch of people I was managing. I was very busy. I mean, the agency was making $10K a month with maybe 50% margin.
Right.
so
Right. Right. But your
making
time was
$5
like,
grand, but I was working 50, 60 hours. And I
Right.
was like putting fires out here, there, project management software here. It was not fluid, right? It wasn't systemized.
right.
So-
Wasn't structured properly.
Exactly. So there were still those, right, for the first
Right.
agency.
And how long were you doing that for? Where, you know, you didn't really have a system, and like, how'd you
Honestly,
improve
I
on
was
it?
doing that, and then I got excited because when I saw the bank account starting to
Grow.
rack up some funds, I said, okay. I read that book, Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour
Yeah,
Work
yeah.
Week, right? I was like, okay,
That's a
I'm
very
dipping
interesting
out.
book.
And I'm like, I'm out of here, man. I flew to the Philippines. I went to the Philippines.
Right.
I quit my job. I'm like, I was even thinking when I quit my job at Apple, I was talking to my manager and I told her, I read Steve Jobs' autobiography and him going to India and traveling. I love working here and I love everything I've done here. But I think this is what Steve Jobs would have wanted me to do.
Out of all the employees, they wanted Derik to.
Steve Jobs would have wanted me to spread my wings. You know?
Right.
It was funny.
Steve Jobs
It
wanted me
was
to make my
funny.
own agency.
Yeah. And I'm like, sorry guys, I'm dipping out. Mwah. You know, so I was out of there, but
Right.
Wow. So
it
you
was fun.
you went from, okay, I like sales. This is something I can like endure my whole life. You know,
Yeah,
it's like one of
yeah.
those things like I can see myself doing this. And then you had too many, like you learned this kind of like philosophy of like asking, this whole outbound thing. And it takes many forms, you know, like you're asking for things when you're, like you said, you're on a vacation and stuff. And then you're asking for like things on door to door. And then now there's like the digital age is like you're asking for things on LinkedIn. But afterwards you found like you had too many sales. So then you start making the agency and then you read the 4-Hour Work Week and you think I can do this not here. And you've left. And what was that like? So did the agency go up or like,
What do you guys think?
I have no idea.
If you left?
I've
Well,
always
when
wanted
I
to
left,
go
what do you guys think happened to
Well,
the
was it
agency?
systemized yet or no?
Well, with what information you have right now,
Okay.
what do you guys think?
It probably collapsed.
I was gonna say I'm knowing the space of like trying to scale a business, and you left the country and you tried to. I think it did well because it forced you to figure it out,
Did
like
it?
how you were supposed to.
Well, who was
It
right?
burned down to the ground.
Did it then do well after?
But how did it collapse? Like, what was kind of the first domino effect that was like, oh shit, like this shit's gonna go down?
A few factors, because I was spread thin. Number one, I was already spread thin.
Right.
So having 50, 60-hour work weeks, and then trying to squeeze in the lifestyle when you're trying to party and having, Jamaicans in the background getting drunk, and then you're trying to run an SEO report and doing a Skype call with a client.
In the club.
Does not work, man. Does not work, right?
Right.
So there's a few factors. So clients start dropping off.
Churning.
And then it's like, okay, MRR, 12K, 10K, 9K. In 4 months, I almost lost everything. I think I was lost with 3 clients. And I'm like, this is not sustainable. I got to get back situated.
Right.
Stabilize and, structure.
So was it the location? I know what you're saying with like the living the lifestyle and trying to run the business. Some people seemingly, like when they're posting on Instagram and like they're growing their business, but they're posting so much that in your head as an entrepreneur, you're thinking, they were able to achieve it. They're living out, they're living the life, and they're running a bigger business than
That's what I saw,
think.
right?
So then you try it, or at least I have this fear of like, if we try it, the business will collapse too. So what happened? Did you come back and that fixed it, or?
I came back, and then because the question you ask yourself is, are you willing to go through all that same bullshit, right? To rebuild. Right. So I think it's important to take time off to decompress and it's like how you go to sleep at night with a problem and your brain comes up with solutions the next day, right? When something bad happens in your business, I think it's good to decompress, assess, see where the dust settles, assess what went well, what didn't go well, and then decide if you want to rebuild and restructure it to have a better version. Otherwise, if you're not ready for that commitment, don't even start. Right. So that's where I was at. Is I was just at a pause. I was thinking, okay, do I climb this mountain again? Because it's gonna be a tall one, a taller one than what I've done. And am I willing to do that? Right.
Oh my gosh. Once it's actually, I've heard this so many times that it's better for you to not know. It's like, people say all the time, like, if I knew how hard it would be to like try whatever it is that the thing that they're doing in their life, I would have not done it. But naively, you don't know how hard it is, so you go through it.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, now you have the hindsight to be like, this is a lot of work. I know it comes with fires. I got to put them out. If I don't want to have to deal with fires all the time, I have to restructure everything, which is a whole new skill set. So like, what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I lost I was dating a local girl here, and she was also part of the business, right? And then once we parted ways, the business sort of fell apart too.
Right.
And then I didn't know do I need a partner? What do I do? Right. So I started to kind of ask these questions, but I'm like, okay, I'll try to figure it out and still stay involved with working online. Right. So that's when I built my second agency. And I tried to learn from the mistakes from the first one. So I said, okay, instead of serving 9 industries, I'll serve 1.
Niche down.
So I went to the fitness coaching, health coaching industry. I'm like, okay, I'm passionate about health. Okay, my ex at that time was also like a health coach.
Same offer?
At this point, instead of relying on the platforms for jobs,
right,
that's when I started to actively do outbound.
Okay, I see.
Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
That's where I started. I made a Facebook group. I called it like the Health and Fitness Wellness Center.
What year was
Marketing
this?
Center. This was 2015.
2015.
Still ahead of your time.
Point. Yeah, so early, man. I was hustling these groups, man. I'm like,
did you learn like any of those skills from like your
hours.
past agency, or like, I mean, making Facebook groups, doing DMs on Instagram? Were you learning from someone else, or was it just all from?
It's all self-taught, right? So you buy courses, you watch YouTube videos, you put it all together, right? You see what sticks, you take one thing that works, and you. For me, I see what builds traction, because at the end of the day, you learn some of these lessons, right? That's like from Apple, for example, you reverse engineer the goal. So for me, I wanted paying clients, right? And then I wanted. Okay, paying clients, how do I service them? What do they need? What segments, right? And then how do I serve them?
Gotcha.
How do I buy the service for lower and then be the middleman and charge a higher rate? That's the model before. That's the model I validated myself. That's what took me to the Philippines. I got to recreate that and see how I can do it again.
Right.
But now with one industry and one offer. So I was offering Facebook advertising,
Oh, wow.
social media management. But another lesson I found is that maybe your passion might not be the best
Right.
niche to go into. Because although I was a fitness enthusiast and all this, like I want to help the small business owner that just started out. There's one of my biggest realizations that there's a big gap between the starting entrepreneur and the tenured entrepreneur, right? If they're tenured already.
Yeah.
Because if they've already been in battle, so to speak, they've been in the trenches in battle, there's less bullshit to cut through.
That's very true.
Versus if you're working with somebody green out, fresh out of the boat, they're gonna be scared to make decisions.
Yeah.
slow
Expect
to make
the world to.
decisions. They pay the least amount. They expect the most fulfillment. Versus if somebody gives you a 10K budget, they're like, here, where do we start?
Right.
Right? Versus the other way. So I kind of learned that the
hard way.
hard
Yeah.
way too.
Right.
The second agency.
The best clients are the most senior ones for sure. Like the ones
I'd
that are
say
most
so,
senior
yeah.
in their career, I guess. Like they've really, like you said, been through the trenches. You don't have to deal with so much BS because they've already figured out all those little things, and they've already got a system that works, and you're just there to amplify it or something. Like
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
And so you scaled that second agency to, was there a cap to it? And then you decided to.
Another, I didn't go over 15K for that one. And then again, it was like the margins were
Which is
too low.
right,
because I
right,
was
right.
charging $297, $597.
Right. Oh, I
Highest was
see.
$997.
Oh, wow.
And they were demanding a lot more
For paid ads?
for paid ads.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Were they fronting their own money for the
Yeah,
spend,
they
though?
covered the spend.
Okay.
It's just, I would take 10-15% of their budget and they didn't have much to spend.
I see. Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so
Did you get a
my
performance?
lowest package was $297 if they spent $1,000 a month. And
Oh, wow.
most of them were on that package.
Right.
And I was just busy making these ads, staying compliant. They were performing, but
Right.
because they were too green, they couldn't close deals,
Oh, I see.
right? So there's
Right.
a lot of factors.
Right.
Or
Their
they
whole
couldn't
sale-
follow up, or
Right.
they didn't have the funnel, or they didn't have the automation.
Their sales process wasn't
or
wasn't
they
there
didn't
yet.
show up on the call, or they didn't send the proposal after.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you work with a client that has a validated funnel making money,
Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier.
salespeople, follow-ups, automations. I don't mind helping a client build that out if they show initiative, or of course if they front the cost, right? Because there's still effort that needs to build that, but without that, it's very challenging to work with
Right.
one-person startups.
So you capped at 15K. So you had another you started up another agency, right? Like a third one. So what kind of made you want to start a third one instead of pivoting that second agency?
So after I finished off with the second agency, I went in another decompression mode, and I call it like my apprenticeship and mentorship phase, because I sought out mentorships. I'm like, this isn't working out the way I wanted to work out.
Right.
I'm not hitting my 30, 40, 50K months that I keep writing down on my journal. Right? So I'm like, man, it's frustrating. It's like
Right.
a glass ceiling I can't break through.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, let me humble myself. Let me find people that have done it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And learn from them. So I gave myself 2-3 years. I'm like, okay, work under people that are making X amount in the agency space. So that's what I did, right? I sought out employment in the agency space. I worked for an affiliate marketing agency in Vancouver. They were working with deals with like the Home Depot, Dynamite, big
Wow.
brands,
Right,
right?
right.
So went down to Vegas with them, learned a lot working with them too, dealing with high level, Fortune 5,000 companies.
Right.
Work with a email marketing agency as a project manager. Work with other e-commerce brands, right? So we were like quarterbacking these different projects. Work with different. I eventually worked with the same guy that sold me that course, Wyatt. Right?
Yeah.
He has a partner named Devin Zander. They live in Florida.
Okay.
And if you guys know Alex Becker, they were all
Yeah, I know Alex
partnered up
Becker.
in
Wow.
one in HCOM.
Yeah.
It's called HCOM 3030. So it's like an e-commerce program that they had.
Mm-hmm.
So I eventually ended up through Outbound, right? So I was DMing, same thing, man, doing the same hustle, DMing them. I eventually got hired as their JV affiliate manager.
Okay.
So they flew me down to Florida,
So you're working with Alex Becker.
I work with Alex
Wow.
Becker. Yeah, was in there with his Lamborghini, took the photo, you know, like
really
went
cool.
to his mastermind. It was cool. Like met a
Yeah.
lot of these other guys too.
Yeah.
So
Do you know who Alex
Outbound
Becker
takes
is?
you a
The blonde guy?
lot of places, man.
No,
like-
he's like kind of like he's kind of like a Tyler. He's like an OG, right?
He has no stuff in his house.
No.
Oh, he used to have a 5-story mansion.
He
in
runs
Dallas,
Hyros now,
in
right?
Austin.
Hyros?
Yeah,
Yeah.
software.
He's
That got
software.
bought. Hyros got bought.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think for
shit.
170 mil.
Oh my God, that's insane.
He's starting another one now.
Jesus.
But yeah, I followed him when he was just fresh out of the army.
Right.
No,
He was teaching SEO Wave.
Alex Becker doesn't like. He has a house that has nothing in it. Like he
Yeah,
just
that's
has like a desk.
after he.
After okay, yeah, because
Dude,
he sold everything.
Yeah, he sold everything.
he's just like a super minimalistic
now
guy
he's, you
now.
know,
Like,
he's like a hermit now. If you see this guy,
he worked
if
with
you see
Alex
this
Becker,
guy
that's cool.
live, dude.
I used to
don't know.
watch a lot of his stuff.
Oh,
'cause- yeah.
If you interact with him, I don't know, maybe he'll see this one day. But yeah, Alex, he's like a Jedi, dude. He's like a Jedi, dude. Alex Becker, when you're interacting with him, I don't know. I just get like, because he's just a bit stoic, you know.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
real- I think he's
Stoic, he
low-key
does-
introverted, but in his videos, he's very extroverted.
Extroverted. I see his like ads all the time.
He is
with
very stoic.
Hyros. With
Yeah.
Hyros.
He
He
gives
used
off
to
that
have an
impression.
ad that's like the wolf mug. Everybody knew him about
The wolf mug. No, I
when
haven't
he was
seen those.
selling HCOM.
But yeah, I mean,
was
go
fun.
back to the third agency, right?
Yeah, so that's after I went through that mentorship, learned a lot, worked with a lot of people. I was working with this agency called Digital Kryptonite,
Hmm.
and they were doing a lot of LinkedIn. This was, I would say, 5 years ago now. LinkedIn was still the wild, wild west. You could connect with as many people as
Right.
you want. Send 1,000 emails if
Oh my
you
gosh.
want. Yeah, it was wild, amazing times.
What? When
Yeah.
did they?
It's a gold mine.
We would be booking 20, 30 calls a week for a client with one profile.
It's a blue
Oh
ocean
my-
back then.
Uh-huh.
This was wow. So the systems that LinkedIn
5, 6
had,
years ago.
people were figuring out like, okay, well, you can like literally, you can really milk this. But then I
Yeah,
guess
this is a constant battle. I think Digital Kryptonite,
was part
was-
of the reason.
a huge part of the reason.
Oh my God.
Because we had a heck ton of clients
Oh
and
wow.
we were just juicing it heavy. Very heavy, man.
Holy crap.
But it was wild. It was wild. We
Mhm.
work with a lot of people too. Like, I probably won't even mention some names, but we work with a lot of, Outbound. So I cut my teeth with LinkedIn Outbound, with
Mhm.
Digital Kryptonite. The funny story is that I bought the guy's course, John Whiting. I don't know if I'm
Mhm.
saying his name right. But I bought his course, and then part of his course is like you can have a call with me for free. So I think he's gonna upsell you or something, right? for his coaching.
That's how it goes, yeah.
But I get on the call, and then he's like, "Dude, why haven't I hired you yet?" And I'm like, "You can hire me. I got some hours to put in." And it's like, "Sure, you want to be an account manager?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll give it a try." So I go in,
Right.
account manage. So I start working, and start really like getting my hands dirty in that game too. So did that for a while. We produced a lot of leads, B2B, testing a lot of scripts, a lot of offers, thousands of messages a day. Amazing times, man. And then the guy sold his company.
Right,
But
right.
it's fine. It's fine because things happen.
Right.
Working for a year and a half, he sold the company. LinkedIn changes too, because
Yeah.
a lot are LinkedIn changes. I think that's another thing that you got to consider, right? If you're dependent on the platform,
Mm-hmm.
is that if it changes, you have to be willing to make the change,
Adapt.
adapt, or
Right.
die. And that's the constant battle between platforms and marketers, is that marketers try to break that, the limits.
Right. I think that's kind of happening with us right now. Is like it's either we're trying to adapt to the space of short form content, right? Because before when we first started out, it's like, oh, you can just edit. People just want edits all the
Right.
time, right? Now you have to
And then
solve.
everything goes viral back in
Yeah,
the day,
everything
right?
goes viral back in the day. We got people to like hundreds of thousands of followers.
Mhm.
And then the offer we made back in the day, I wouldn't make the same offer now.
It makes sense.
Like I wouldn't offer someone 10,000 followers in like 2 months or a month, right?
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
so much harder now with the algorithm, and it's almost kind of based on luck too, because your algorithm is pushing out videos to a certain amount of people. Like what if those people don't even watch your videos?
But I
right?
think that's why it's key to have both, right?
Right.
It's key to have outbound, and because you can't rely on one.
Yeah, yeah,
Although I can kill and destroy one
Mhm.
platform, you gotta if you can do your outbound and you're good at it, start working on that inbound, right? Start putting the content out and then supplement it.
Yeah.
So.
It's kind of like if with Alexi, for example, when he came in contact with like Charlie Morgan's brand, it was like an instant like, oh, this guy's like pretty good. He's always posting content. He really knows, like, he looks like he knows what he's talking about. So then Alexi booked a call. I think it was like, right, and it got sucked up in the community of it. Like, he was watching the content. He was believing that this guy's really good at what he does.
I joined his Facebook group.
Exactly.
And then his appointment setter booked me within that Facebook group.
Exactly. So then, had you not stumbled across that organic content, then you would never have known. But let's say you never did, and then he reached out to you and was like, "Oh, hey," like, and then you looked into
But
it.
it also
I'd
makes
probably
the
like
conversations for outbound a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah.
There's authority built up.
Exactly.
Yeah, because
right?
like when you look at someone's profile, if Charlie were to do an outbound on me and I were to look in his profile, I'd be like, "Oh crap, this guy like
exactly
knows his shit."
Versus if he didn't have anything.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You could at least, because the thing about content that a lot of people miss is that I think there's different layers to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's one where you're not even playing the game, right? You're in the sidelines watching.
Mm-hmm.
Worst case, right? At least the middle case scenario, you have some sort of branding,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're showcasing the fundamentals, your case studies, your systems, your USP,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a bit about you. So when they do look at you, that multi-touch point
Mm-hmm.
comes in, and then
Right.
it builds that brand. And then best case scenario, you're consistently putting things out there, staying top of mind.
Yeah.
But having your base and pillar content, I think it's still key, and it's still better than just watching in the sidelines.
Right. No,
Right?
100%. Yeah.
So considering content and even the recommendations I have for clients when I work with them is that at least answer the FAQs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
At least
Just
put the-
engage with the community.
Exactly. So because it's part of the buying process now
Mhm.
is them looking you up on social.
Yeah.
And if they don't see that, your competition that does have that, they have the edge, right?
Yeah, especially nowadays where like the market is super saturated with a bunch of these lead gen companies, marketing agencies, right? You need a way to stand out, and like that thing is, I would say, is content, right? Because when people do look you up, like, oh, this person, he has a bunch of testimonials, he has a bunch of content out that's like free. I'd want to book a call with them as opposed to just someone with not an optimized profile at all.
It's
I
true.
wouldn't want to book a call with them, right?
Yeah. So I mean, not doing anything at all, obviously worst case. Outreach without authority content, step 1.
Right.
Step 2, outreach with authority content,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or step 3 or level 3.
Yeah.
That's when you have your consistent content, authority,
Mm-hmm.
and outreach. And then maybe you boost that with paid ads after the funnel's been validated.
Right.
Then you have a trifecta of initiatives that's pushing your brand out, right?
Right.
If you simplify it, it's essentially that. You can choose your platform, but, building your authority and your brand, pick where your audience is.
Yeah.
Pick one to start with. Second one is have an outreach method, right?
Yeah.
And then if it works, then boost it up.
And I think like having a well-established brand is probably the ultimate client acquisition channel because people are just coming to you. You know what I mean? It's not like you can turn off outbound, you can turn off paid ads, and then you can still have leads coming in because of the content you've put out that's there forever, right? Someone's eventually going to find you like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. I want to book a call with him.
Yeah, you're
Right.
planting seeds, right?
Exactly.
That's the SEO aspect of it all.
Yeah, like a strong brand and all that. Like, I mean, you see things with like Apple, like they don't have to do any advertisement because people know their brand so much. They could sell anything to they could literally release like a toothbrush, Apple toothbrush, and people would buy that shit because the branding is so strong.
I
what I
think
mean?
they still do some ads, but
Yeah,
it's mainly for like just to say like we're here.
Yeah.
We got something new.
Yeah.
But like you already know that it's gonna be
Exactly.
good.
But like it's if they were to turn something off, like I don't know if they do paid
brand
ads, or not,
values have been
it's
established,
already
right?
established
Yeah.
that even like someone like Alex Hormozy or some of these Grant Cardone or the Gary V's of the world, they just output so much content, right? And they don't really have to run paid ads or whatever.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, if the algorithm's pushing traffic,
Yeah.
why not, right?
Mhm.
Like if they have a big following already, why not take advantage
Mhm.
and but starting out, obviously you need to
Yeah, you need
kickstart it. right?
exactly.
You need to put a bit of gas in that fire to get it going.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have this point in your life where like you're trying to scale this new outreach agency. What's the most that you were able to achieve with that? And then like, where are you at now? Like in terms of like where are you? Because last we spoke, I think you were doing the outbound. And now you're doing, you're still doing outbound. So like, has the niche changed at all within like the, within your clients or something, or like what's what's new now?
So after the guy sold his agency, me and another guy started the agency that I just exited and sold. So in about 2.5 years, we built that up to just under 7 figures and collected. Wow. Yeah. And then that was around 58% net margins on that one. So that was a good ride. We have an NDA for the deal details, so can't really break that. But after that, I just took a mini vacation, right? Traveled around, went to Greece, Mexico, Turkey. But with all the AI that's happening, all of these changes in automation outbound, I kind of got wrangled back in, right?
Right.
So now it's mainly, I think, from my decompression and then again iterating on what's to come. There's still a few factors that could be taken advantage of, right? So there's still now more than ever after COVID in the remote work situation, there's a lot more talent available. And then there's also a lot more people needing that talent because a lot of work has shifted online. So I think there's an opportunity to still present the outbound solution to different brands, right?
For sure.
And instead of me doing it at this point, I think the next goal is to build a platform or a marketplace where, it can happen organically. People can come in, get trained on the most updated strategies, how they can put together a campaign, and then how do they then either find clients for themselves or service clients. And then on the client side of things, how do clients then find somebody to help them do their outbound and then cut out 50-60% or more of their labor costs through automations and
everyone
through
wins on
outsourced
that.
team.
Everyone wins at that point because like there's enough supply, there's enough demand, and you're just facilitating that relationship or the connection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
kind of like an Amazon, like an Amazon setter where you're just distributing all this training. Like, how Amazon just delivers like Prime or whatever. It's like you're just distributing what's it called?
Talent.
To these
teams,
people, right? And connecting, right? Super interesting.
Yeah, it's very specific. It's very niche kind of like staffing company almost. It's you're just making sure people are, because you don't go to university for like outbound, and there's no like sort of certifications for it, or like, and I'm sure there's ways that you can learn either like how about like you can have like a whole kind of like lifetime in marketing, and then you can kind of like learn it slowly, or
okay, well I guess I'll kick something off. Is like, what is really the state of the lead gen companies or marketing companies nowadays? Because I know it's really super saturated right now, right? There's a lot of companies out there who are trying, like for example, Charlie Morgan, who are trying to teach people how to run their first marketing agency and get their first 10K. Right. But I feel like with these courses and all these people trying to teach you how to get your first 10K, people don't understand, like they don't teach fulfillment, first of all. And I feel like a lot of people, it's saturating the market with all these people who are trying to, start their own agency, but then ends up just like burning a client because they don't know how to do fulfillment, right? So I guess, what is kind of your take with lead gen companies in 2023 moving to 2024?
That's a great question, because I think that's something that needs to be addressed. And honestly, the answer to that is staying ahead of the curve and just testing, right? Because you got to adapt with the market. It's not nothing else is consistent but change. Right. So having the fundamentals in place, it's great. You know that the outbound numbers typically dictate the inbound results. So if you know your KPIs for conversion, you know that 100 messages, X amount of open rate, X amount of reply rate, X amount of call booking rate. If you know those numbers, then you just need to know that you need to put numbers on top of the pipeline to get things down, right? So after knowing that, now what are the limitations, right? So what does LinkedIn limit you? What does email limit you? What does Facebook, what does Instagram limit you, right? Because, okay, you know your numbers, you need to send 100 a day to get 5 bookings a week, for example. Then you'll try your best to send 100 a day, right? If that's going to ask for 1 profile, 2 profiles, 3 profiles, what needs to be done to get that done, you'll try to get done,
Mhm.
right? At least that's the idea, because knowing your numbers and those conversion metrics, numbers don't lie, right?
Mhm.
And then being able to feed that engine with the right type of gas, the right amount of air, the right mix, is what's gonna make it move.
Right.
So staying ahead of the curve, meaning you should be testing,
Mhm.
you should be looking at your own data,
Mhm.
right? You can't be preaching from a high horse, without having to fold your sleeves yourself, right?
Right, right.
Because it can get old fast.
Mhm.
The information gets old super fast with the platforms changing, just like what I told you earlier. It was the Wild West.
Yeah,
That was
right.
5 years ago, less
Mhm.
than a decade ago. You could send 1,000 email messages a day. And then now it's 800 a month,
Right.
right? How do I know that? We tested it, right? So we maxed out until it said you can't send no more.
Right.
So you gotta keep finding out, gotta keep testing. That's why I think it's important that if you do choose to enroll in some sort of program, try to have something that has accountability
Mhm.
or ongoing support
Right.
that can give you that, right? Or if not, then try to stay ahead of the curve and
Mhm.
update it yourself.
Right. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's nothing. The fundamentals are the same, Send a message, get a response. If it's a good offer, they'll respond, right? So, and the numbers, the KPIs, all that you can reverse engineer and understand, but change wise, it's the platforms that change, right?
Right.
It's how they limit you. Are you in the spam box? Are you in the, open rates? This and that.
Gotcha.
So
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, I guess I kind of have two more questions. Brian, I don't know if you have any questions. But my first question is, you told me a story a while back that really kind of stuck with me because I always think, man, it's if Derik is able to sell this, we can sell this. We can sell anything, right?
Right.
So you were telling me back in the day you were selling literal shit, manure.
Right.
I want to know more about. I want you to kind of just explain to the listeners or the viewers, what, why, and how you were selling
What
shit.
was that all about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I grew up in a farm, right? And then being in the farm, there's just a lot of shit. Right? So that's a byproduct of the farm, right?
Right.
So a lot of people nowadays, they would say, "Oh, it's shit, right? It's no value. It's nothing." Right?
Right.
But back in the day, honestly, if somebody wants to buy anything, including shit,
Right.
you could make a buck, right? So my mom was an avid greenhouse person, so she needed the manure and she needed the soil mix, right? So there's a need, there's a product, somebody got to make it happen, right? So
Right.
I'm like, hey, mom, you need some manure for that, the cactuses in the greenhouse. Why don't I drop by?
Right.
In the stock farm, we got a farm there. Pick up some shit, and then I'll take it home, and then you compensate me. And she's like, yeah, do it. So that's it, man. Anything that somebody finds value in, even if it's shit,
you can sell it. Right. That's so funny. Yeah, that story really just kind of stuck with me because I thought it was like, for one, super funny, and two, it just puts into perspective like the mindset of if he could sell this, I could sell like our product, right?
I mean, because the lessons that is a lesson,
right,
from that story, but you also have to sort of analyze like what made me able to sell the shit.
Yeah, because someone saw value in it.
Exactly.
Right.
Somebody saw value in it. Timing was there. Price was right. I wasn't selling it for like the price of gold. It was
Right.
the price of shit. And then, effort in, effort out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess to wrap it up really for for this podcast, I guess my last question is, what is the goal for Derik this year and moving on to 2024?
I mean, this year it's pretty much wrapping up. We're in Q4. So I think just seeing how the dust settles with the campaigns that we've started this year, analyzing that with clients, see how we can improve it for next year. It gets a bit busy for me for Q4 because it's where a lot of planning and the groundwork I feel needs to be done. So Q1, typically Q1 people struggle. They're like, oh, what do we do for this or that? Or that. An amazing time to sell stuff.
Right.
Amazing time
Right,
to sell
right.
stuff. And even Q4, it's a great time to sell. But yeah, it's really prep, groundwork, Q1.
Mm-hmm.
We are starting to document our internal processes for our outbound systems.
Mm-hmm.
So for our
Nice.
LinkedIn campaigns,
Nice.
our cold email campaigns, we're starting to really drill down on same thing, the fundamentals, what needs to be done, so we can use it internally.
Mm-hmm.
And also we've had requests from
Mm-hmm.
some friends, some colleagues. We could probably have them beta test that program
Right.
and see if there's interest in potentially having that as a service as well.
Right, right.
Bringing people in, they get trained, and then if there's a need, then other agencies or consultants,
Yeah.
they can
Right.
find some good people there too.
I was wondering, you know how like in 2012 we were just saying that there was the best way to make money was affiliate marketing. Everyone was selling affiliate marketing information.
Right.
And I didn't even understand really what that meant. And when I was younger, but then it evolved into like a couple coaches started popping up here and there, and next thing you know, like there's so many coaches, and a lot of them overlap in the same niche. Like there's in every niche, there's like so many of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a time where Facebook ads were killing it, right? And because of the iOS update and like the way that information is like protected for the consumer, that became super expensive for people to do. And then content became like, instead of just being a YouTuber, like now you could blow up on Instagram. And it used to be you'd make fun of, not me, but like adults would usually make fun of like, oh, like what are you doing wasting so much time on being an Instagram influencer? And now it's like everyone knows it can make money if used properly. So what's like the next thing that you think is going to happen that it shifts in that direction? Not because, actually, let me rephrase this. Every time that there's like a move towards change, it's usually because of technology or regulations, like the LinkedIn stuff, or it's like the demand, like what you said. There's more people who need outbound now because of like remote work and stuff. So many people decided that they're going to be able to work from home and they're going to figure out how to make money online. Okay, considering all of that, in the future, we're going to probably have things like the Quest 3, the VR headset just came out. The PlayStation VR 2 just came out. GatherTown, the software where you can have like a virtual office. Webinars, for example, are a little bit outdated. Do you see not outdated, but do you see anything with this new technology where like instead of being like one of the latest you were one of the earliest adopters of Outbound, but like what can you predict is going to be like something that's big that you could be one of the first people to do it?
Virtual door knocking.
For lead gen or for marketing, you mean?
For marketing, because one more thing about it is like when I first started making subtitles, it was just a coincidence that there was a very few amount of people who even were putting subtitles on videos manually on Premiere Pro. I only did it because somebody asked me to do it, and like it wasn't even my idea. It was just like someone asked me to do it. So, and then it wasn't until like a year later that I started seeing more and more people started doing it. So, like, do you see maybe webinars in the future being something like I don't know, there's like AI, VR, and all this stuff. Like, can you predict that there might be something that you could jump in there first and like make a bunch of money with it, or?
That's a great question. At this point, I just follow where the money leads,
right? Right, exactly. That's what
so bad.
That's what we've all been doing, though.
It
makes sense.
It's we gotta feed, we gotta break bread, right? So
we saw that Outbound was doing well for you, so we're like, okay, we gotta learn about Outbound. But I'm saying, like, do you see there being something in the future where you're like, holy crap, like, you know what, like, I see the stars aligning for this one marketing thing in the future. Why instead of placing, for example, instead of placing video editors, like how we're gonna do, what about placing like prompt engineers or something? Like, I don't know, setting up like the AI ecosystem for coaches. You know what I mean? What if someone came in and was like, I will AI your entire business, but only focus on coaches, and like they set up all the systems for you to make content, set up webinars, do the outbound, everything is AI. That's like you know what I mean? So
yeah, I think there's definitely opportunity for that. It will still take time, and eventually I think there will be niche solutions focused on those subsegments of the industries, right? Or even the industries first, subsegments just like how we saw software come in, and then there's a huge software bubble where there was a software to send email, right, and then software to send outbound email,
Right.
and then now newsletter emails, and there's landing pages, websites, there's split testing on landing page. So there's this new it's like new ground, right? New opportunity.
It's a new era.
New era of opportunity in the AI space, where in the last few months I was looking at these AI platforms like Cactus AI or the legal book AI, where it's platforms.
That one's pretty cool. Yeah.
And then it's large language modules, right? So customized LLMs housing custom data with custom outputs. So thinking about that, I'm not very technically in that space, but I am working with different experts, talking with them, and just being informed about the space. Again, trying to stay ahead of the curve and seeing opportunities, having discussions. But how does the changes in opportunities in AI affect existing processes and problems? It's gotta be that. It can't be you can't invent a problem you're gonna solve.
Right.
You gotta solve something that's already
A
being,
problem. Yeah.
that people are paying for, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
in
the
an
innovation in that
industry,
space.
exactly, that's where I see it's gonna slowly seep into. So the smart ones will find a niche, will find a specific problem to solve. And I saw an underwriter software, for example, it's $25,000 a year for the license.
For what?
Yeah, for an underwriting software
does
for
that
that's validating multi-unit residential deals. And that's all it does. You enter 3 pieces of document, you pick a model for analysis. I think it's 21 models, and it gives you projections collected from the 3 pieces of information documents you put in. And then it just gives you 21 analysis models that you can use for considering if the deal is good or bad. But it saves you 3 weeks of time of deal analysis, and then takes out the human error
Right.
component, and then you're processing instead of like 3 deals a month, you're processing 6 deals a month. They drop 25 grand, if it's making you 50 grand a deal,
Right.
you double up your deal value, then you'll so there's a lot of opportunity there, I believe. And it's something that with the changes, with staying updated, is something that I'd also want to make sure that's included, right, in what we consider in how we service clients. How do these AI integrations tools, can we create these tools, right? Is there an opportunity there? So
Did you see the one tool where you can? Okay, you've obviously seen GatherTown before. It's this is other tool that looks just like GatherTown.
Just crazy.
But you can basically, like, let's say hire. I'm gonna hire 3 engineers. So you name like Steve, David, and Kelly, 3 engineers. And then you could have like your marketing department, and you can have a CFO, and they're all little like avatars that are AI powered. They're not real people, and they will communicate to them amongst themselves, similar to Agent GPT, which you'll give an instruction.
right.
But then after the instruction, there has to be like, before it just starts researching, there has to lay out like first I'm going to Google these 3 things. Then I'm going to I'm going to look for this information. And then I'm going to, if I do find this information, then I'm going to like do this, whatever. This office, basically you could tell it, hey, I'd like to start an app that does X thing. And between themselves, they'll talk and they'll bounce ideas back and forth until they'll kind of like invent use cases for it. And then they'll be like, okay, but if we try it this way, we might run into a problem with like this. What do you think? And then they'll
troubleshoot.
They'll troubleshoot. They'll build it, and then they'll test it to see if the code breaks. And then if it breaks, they'll try it again. And then they're working 24/7 on the project that you set the. And then if you can connect it with, I'm not sure if you can like connect it with like QuickBooks or something, but like there's a CFO in there, and like they're making your content strategy, and like the days go by, and they're always staying up to date with like working. They're working for you 24/7 basically. You know what I mean?
It makes sense. I think that's why it's going to be very key to stay on the human marketing side of things, right? Because that's what can't be replaced by code. We can build and bring products to market super fast, validate and test like that. But how do you get the masses to adopt and try and buy, right? So our job as marketers, outbound content marketing, that's our edge. That's what's gonna make us not replaceable. Is how do we let other humans buy the shiny widget that we help our client build, right? So in the future, that's what I'm hedging on, is like the humanity side of it. And I'm keeping those skill sets, keeping them sharp, like I'm keeping this social aspect of it
Right.
sharp, because at the end of the day, that human relationship,
It's what matters,
that still
really.
matters. Yeah,
Right.
that's still what matters.
Well, in the future, if it keeps leaning towards less and less people needed, then the more you keep those skill sets, like refined and everything, the more valuable you'll be in the future, because you'll be one of the only people. Majid was saying this. He was saying after the pandemic, people became so antisocial that like it's actually quite odd to see someone who's like extremely good in social scenarios. I don't know. That's what he was.
Well, it's also one of those things where what I'm seeing now is service-based businesses like painters, window cleaners, like are like back on the fucking rise, bro. Like people are starting service-based businesses and they're racking a lot of money because they found out like there's a need for it now, because everyone wants to do digital services,
true.
right?
It's true. The pendulum is swinging.
It's
right?
swinging, right? So more and more people are wanting to start their own. Like I've seen this a lot on TikTok and like Instagram now, is people starting their own physical labor, like service-based business, because
it makes sense. It's in the rise.
It's
on
in the rise.
Yeah,
and
like
AI,
roofing, carpet cleaning.
right? And people, there's a need for that now because there's a shortage of I guess that type of labor.
Blue collar work, yeah.
Right.
Blue collar workers.
Yeah, and people
Same thing with the people that are
Yeah.
going off grid and building, like
Yeah.
homesteads and all
Yeah.
these things too. They want to get their hands back in the land and
Right. I feel like a lot of, I'll just say this one thing, but I feel like a lot of millionaires, or most of the millionaires, they always have boring businesses.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they're always like, I know there's one person, my girlfriend's friend's boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's pretty well off, and they just own like a wood company that's just like sells wood, premium wood to for construction and stuff. And like it's such a boring business.
Yeah, nothing
right?
fancy.
Nothing fancy.
No bells and whistles.
Right.
But it's needed.
Exactly.
Right? And then they got the connection with the supplier. They have it, and then they have the buyer. So
yeah, we'll see what's like in the future, but other than that,
yeah, at the end of the day, the fundamentals have to be there, right? So the need, the product, the offering. So even if you do start physical or online business, I'd say you gotta consider those things. And as long as my philosophy is like, as long as you keep the client's best interest in mind, it's almost impossible for them to find fault in what you do.
Right.
Because if that's your North Star, and all your decisions are backed by that, then you just want the best for the clients, right? So
right. Well, thank you, Derik. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Do you want to, give a little shout out, or something you want to kind of mention, or anything like that?
The elections are coming up. U.S. elections coming up next year. Always gets crazy, right? So
okay.
This is a weird segue. I don't know. Normally I market with those angles.
Right.
I know you gotta be relevant, right?
Right.
You gotta be relevant. I got some tips for there, but that's gonna be for the inner community, or that's for the non-public conversation. But yeah, nothing else. Thanks for having me, boys. It's
thanks,
a
man.
pleasure. And
for sure.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.